Alright everybody, it is Friday morning. I just turned the lights on and you can see that crayfish. He's working his way down, but he was way up on top of those pipes right up by the surface of the water, and I have no doubt that if he wanted to, he probably could have crawled right on out. I don't think there's a very large gap right back there, but these crayfish are pretty strong, and if they want to push their way past a little piece of plastic in the back of the tank, they probably could have. But I don't think that was an issue. I think he's was just up there staying elevated. I don't know why, but the crayfish seem to like to go high up during the night. I often find them up on the branches or the rocks in the morning. So last night I tried to shoot a video, but my battery died. And I think we're finally getting to see some genuine drama going on in this tank, crayfish wise. If you look over here in this far right corner, that little white husk is actually the back plate or the carapace of a crayfish. So I don't know who got him, but somebody got eaten. And I think more than one person got eaten. That does not look like a sloughed shell. That looks like a damaged shell. And then down here last night on the bottom was a couple of small claws, so I don't know where they've gone. They must have been taken up overnight. That sunfish may even have eaten them. They were pretty small claws. But I also noticed some larger claws stuck to the power head. So that is definitely the remnants of somebody who's been attacked and had their claws torn off. So I don't know if it's the big crayfish or, just the crayfish fighting amongst themselves. Or are we seeing damage done by the sunfish striking at some of these smaller sunfish and doing damage? I don't know. It's hard to tell, but we've got a pretty good look at the sunfish going after a crayfish. There's some drama for you. So I think there's a bit of a mystery solved when it comes to where the legs and claws of the crayfish came from. So I'm going to throw some food in the tank because that's my big crayfish, and I really don't want it to get destroyed by the sunfish, and the sunfish is clearly going to keep going at it until he gets it. And he'll do that. He'll just keep picking legs off, he'll pick the claws off, and eventually he'll get the crayfish to where he's not able to defend himself. And see, now we're getting a pretty good look at why these claws are torn off and why they're stuck to the power head and just how aggressive this sunfish can be. So maybe today will be the day that I pull him out of the tank altogether. He's not really going to stay in there long term. He kind of gets on my nerves anyway. And now that he's back there, oh, that's not even my really big crayfish. That's one of the medium-sized crayfish. But he's determined to go after that crayfish and get him. I've said before that the fish in this tank are river and stream fish, so they've got higher nutrition requirements than something like an angelfish. I know an angelfish is a river fish, but an angelfish is also a fish that tends to just stay fairly docile. It sits in one spot in the tank. It doesn't do a whole lot. It just kind of floats around looking majestic. They don't burn up a lot of calories during the day. Sunfish will live in ponds, and you will find them in slower moving backwaters. You don't really find sunfish in like the rapids or really fast moving water in the streams. They tend to stay near the shore, and they tend to stay in slower moving water. But they're very active fish, and they go through a lot of calories, so they've got pretty high feeding requirements. And while I do feed this tank a lot, I only feed it a lot during certain times of the day. Like usually in the evening, I'll feed the tank pretty heavily. Now we've got that mayan cichlid in here, and it's going after the same crayfish. This crayfish is the one that's been damaged by the sunfish. And I guess because of the damaged flesh is exposed, they can taste it in the tank. And now that mayan cichlid is going after it, and even that tilapia is in there going after it. So he's definitely wounded. He's got more than just a leg torn off. He's got a big chunk taken out of his side at this point, so that's pretty much food crayfish at this point. I'm just going to go ahead and let that sunfish and the other fish in here do their thing. I've said all along that this is a native tank. It's going to be a natural environment, and this kind of stuff happens. So I'm really surprised I haven't seen more carnage and destruction than I've seen already in this tank. I don't know if that sunfish is going to keep working on it or not, but I'm going to go ahead and call this the end of the video. You've got the idea. You've seen how a sunfish works at breaking it up and tearing it apart and basically removing its defenses. It takes the legs off one at a time, it takes the claws off one at a time, and eventually it just bits and pieces the poor crayfish to death. That's my big crayfish right there. That's the one that I don't want to see injured. I want to see if I can let that one grow up and get even bigger and more beautiful. They do get about 7 inches long, and the older they get and the bigger they get, the more colorful they get. So I'm going to try to preserve that one and see if we can't have at least one big giant crayfish in here at some point. So maybe today will be the day I start working on getting that stupid sunfish out of here, because he's going right back down to where that crayfish is, and he's just going to keep on working on that until it's gone. So again, I'm going to go ahead and throw some floating pellets in there, maybe distract the sunfish. And I've also actually got to finish getting the fish room turned on. As I said, it's first thing in the morning and we're still dark down here. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss anything I've got going on. I always do little oddball stuff like this. Whenever I see something exciting or interesting happening, I always try to grab the camera and get it on film. And then, of course, I do all my other stuff that I actually plan on doing, and you don't want to miss any of that either. So don't forget, this is my native tank. Thanks again for watching this one. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you real soon on the next one. Hopefully it won't be quite so gruesome.